For 3 years, I woke up every single morning, and the first thought I had before my eyes were even open was, where does it hurt today? Every morning. That was my life.
And then something changed.
One breath, that's how it started. Just one slow breath. I had no idea I was rewiring my brain.
Welcome to the Wellness Bridge. I'm Gary Chen, physiotherapist and founder of GC Integrative Physiotherapy and Wellness on the Gold Coast. Today, I want to tell you about the most underestimated tool in chronic pain recovery. And it's completely free. It lives inside your own body, and science now has a very clear explanation for exactly why it works. We're talking about breathing, but not just any breathing. Slow, deliberate, nervous system aware breathing. And I have with me today someone whose life was literally transformed by learning to breathe differently. Chloe, a 35-year-old graphic designer from Brisbane who spent 3 years in chronic pain and found her way out. Chloe, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Gary. I'm honestly just happy to talk about this because I wish someone had told me earlier.
Take me back to the beginning. What was daily life like at your worst?
It was relentless lower back pain, but it wasn't just physical. I was constantly exhausted. I was anxious all the time. I couldn't concentrate at work. I kept waiting for a scan to find something, some structural explanation, and nothing ever showed up clearly enough to explain what I was feeling. And that almost made it worse, because then people, sometimes even doctors, would say things like, well, structurally you look fine. And I'd think, then why does it feel like this?
That experience you're describing, the mismatch between how you feel and what the imaging shows, we actually unpacked that in depth last episode. The pain neuroscience tells us that chronic pain is fundamentally a nervous system issue. It's not just about tissue damage. It's about a sensitized system that has learned to amplify threat signals. And here's what I want our listeners to understand. When your nervous system is in a sensitized state, what we call central sensitization, your autonomic nervous system shifts hard into sympathetic dominance, that fight or flight mode, and it stays there.
Is that why I was always so tired? I kept thinking I must have some other condition, something metabolic.
Almost certainly yes, running in sympathetic overdrive is metabolically exhausting. Your heart rate variability drops. That's a measurable marker of how stressed your autonomic nervous system is. And research consistently shows that people with chronic pain have significantly reduced parasympathetic tone. Your vagal brake is stuck off. And this is where I want to go a bit deep for a moment, because I think this science is genuinely exciting. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in the body. It runs from your brainstem all the way down through your heart, your lungs, your gut. And here's the key fact. Roughly 80% of its fibers are afferent, meaning they carry information from your body up to your brain. So the vagus nerve is primarily a listening system. It's the body broadcasting to the brain. And when that signal is healthy and calm, when your vagal tone is high, the brain receives that message and says, "We are safe, stand down."
And breathing changes that signal?
Dramatically. And we have very solid evidence for this now. A 2024 systematic review and meta-analysis of 15 randomized controlled trials found that non-invasive vagus nerve stimulation through breathwork and related techniques produced the mean effect size of 0.79 for pain reduction compared to inactive controls. That is clinically meaningful. That is a real measurable neurobiological effect. And another 2025 systematic review specifically looking at over 800 subjects confirmed significant pain reduction in the majority of trials. When you breathe slowly, At around 4 to 6 breaths per minute, you activate those vagal afferent fibers. The signal travels up to the nucleus tractus solitarius in the brainstem, which then modulates the limbic system, the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala. You are literally sending a calm signal directly into your brain's fear and pain processing centers.
That's remarkable. I just thought breathing exercises were something people did to relax. I didn't know there was a circuit.
There absolutely is, and here's what's beautiful. A 2024 pilot randomized controlled trial published in Stress and Health Journal showed that deep diaphragmatic breathing didn't just affect the nervous system. It also shifted inflammatory markers. The experimental group showed significantly higher heart rate variability measures of parasympathetic recovery and anti-inflammatory changes in the cytokine profile. Breathing slowly isn't just calming, it is anti-inflammatory. Here's what I find profound about all of this. The traditions that have known this longest are the ancient ones. Buddhist meditation practice, pranayama, the yogic science of breath, Qigong breathing, the Dantian breath in Taoist practice. They were all empirically through thousands of years of self-experimentation, converging on the same thing, slow, belly-focused, approximately 4 to 6 breaths per minute. A Domi Van Sung paper described pranayama as self-directed neuromodulation. Think about that. These ancient practitioners, without MRI machines, without heart rate variability monitors, without randomized controlled trials, discovered the exact breathing frequency that activates the vagus nerve, calms the amygdala, and regulates pain. They just called it different things.
That actually gives me chills because the practice my physio taught me, slow belly breathing, about 5 breaths a minute, I later found out it's almost identical to what they call Nadi Shodhana in yoga, and it felt ancient. Even the first time I did it, it felt like my body recognized it somehow.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. Your body did recognize it because this pathway has been in your nervous system your whole life. You're not learning something new. You're rediscovering a capacity that was always there. It just needed the right signal. So let's talk about your turning point, Chloe. What happened when you started doing this deliberately, consistently?
The first few weeks, honestly, I didn't notice much, but I was committed. I set a timer, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 in the evening, just nose breathing, slow exhale, diaphragm, nothing dramatic. Then around week 4, something shifted. I woke up one morning and the first thought wasn't, where does it hurt? It was just nothing, just waking up. And I lay there for a moment thinking, wait, that's different. And over the following weeks, it just kept building. The pain didn't disappear overnight, but my relationship to it changed. I stopped bracing for it. I stopped catastrophizing. And then gradually it started to recede.
I love that story so much, and I want to give our listeners 3 specific actionable things they can take away right now. Things grounded in exactly what Chloe did and what the research supports. Takeaway 1. The resonant breathing frequency. Research and clinical practice converge on 4 to 6 breaths per minute as the vagal sweet spot. That means you're inhaling for about 4 or 5 seconds and exhaling for about 5 or 6 seconds. Long, slow, full exhale because it's the exhale that activates the parasympathetic response. If you breathe at this rate for just 5 to 10 minutes, your heart rate variability will measurably improve. You can check it on a smartwatch if you want the feedback, but you'll also feel it. Takeaway 2. The diaphragm, not the chest. Most of us in a stress state breathe shallow and high, upper chest, short cycles, rapid. This is itself a sympathetic signal. Diaphragmatic breathing, belly rises on the inhale, soft and round. activates the diaphragm's natural massage of the vagal ganglia. You're physically stimulating the nerve. Put one hand on your belly and one on your chest. The belly hand should move first and most. Takeaway 3. Consistency beats intensity. This is the one I really want to drive home. You don't need a 30-minute breathwork session. You need 5 minutes twice a day, every day. The research shows the gains are cumulative. Multi-session training produces sustained heart rate variability improvement that builds over weeks. Chloe found her shift at week 4. That's not coincidence, that's neuroplasticity. You are literally retraining your autonomic nervous system one session at a time.
The consistency thing was hard at first, but then I started thinking of it like brushing my teeth, non-negotiable. And once I had that mindset, the habit stuck.
That is exactly the right analogy. Non-negotiable nervous system hygiene. Chloe, I want to ask you one final thing. If you could go back and speak to yourself at the beginning of those 3 years, when you were waking up every morning and the first thought was, where does it hurt? What would you say?
I'd say your brain is not broken. Your body is not broken. Your nervous system learned a pattern because something hurt and it was trying to protect you. And that same nervous system, that same remarkable adaptive system can learn a new pattern. It just needs a different signal. And that signal is your breath. It was always your breath.
That is one of the most powerful things anyone has said on this podcast. Your nervous system learned a pattern and it can learn a new one. That is neuroplasticity, that is healing, and it starts with a single breath. If today's episode resonated with you, if you've been living with chronic pain, with anxiety, with a nervous system that feels stuck, please share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the Wellness Bridge wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review if you can. And if you're on the Gold Coast and you like to explore this work in person, come and see us at GC Integrative Physiotherapy and Wellness. I'm Gary Chen. Until next time, breathe slow, breathe deep, and remember, your body has the answer. Sometimes it just needs you to be quiet enough to hear it.